sunny morning, February 22nd. My name is Bettina Swigger, and I'm the CEO of Downtown SLO, and this is our weekly response and recovery call. We have some great speakers for you today, and we have some continuing good news to share about how our COVID-19 cases are transpiring in our community, as well as some relief efforts that are coming up from both our federal and our state level, and some things that we're doing hyper-locally to help you and your business. So we are a nonprofit organization governed by a board of directors. If you can go to the next slide. We have these wonderful faces have served our Downtown SLO board for the last year. Our board term goes from April 1st until March 30th, and board members are elected for 2-year terms. And right now we have 5 vacant positions on our board of directors, and we have 5 candidates who are running for those 5 spaces. So not a terribly competitive election this year, but we're really grateful to the people who did step up and volunteer to run as candidates. So we have 3 renewing members of the board, and then we have 1 returning member, Stephen Patrick from Stephen Patrick Design and the Blade Runners Salon. He's been on the board several times before. And we have a new candidate to the board, Jessica Russo with Flower House. So you, as a member of Downtown SLO, should have received your board election ballot from a company called Election Buddy, and the deadline for your votes is March 2nd, 2021. So we look forward to receiving your ballots and also welcoming the new class of our board of directors April 1st. And on the next slide, we got a wonderful donation last week from Trust Automation. And thanks to our board president, Pat Arnold, whose team came and loaded 2 truckloads of vinyl gloves, medical grade, suitable for food service and hair salons. So we in our office, you can see these pictures below, have 161 boxes of gloves to distribute through the downtown. And our ambassadors have been able to distribute gloves to 40 businesses so far, which is a total of about 1,000 free gloves. To put it into perspective, we have 180,000 gloves. So we've got a way to go. And if you're interested in signing up to get a box of gloves or even just a smaller portion of some gloves, we encourage you to email Cassidy or fill out the form, which she will put in the chat now, and our ambassadors can help get you connected to some gloves. So thanks, Trust Automation, for that donation. Rachel, take it away with where we're at now for our COVID-19 reality.
Thank you, Bettina. So as of Friday, February 19th, we were at 19,340 positive tests of COVID-19 in SLO County, with 3,631 of them accounting in the city of SLO. This week, we decided to add active cases as we're continuing to see cases move in the right direction. We are currently at 706 active cases in the county, and the number of deaths does continue to increase. We are at 217 deaths in SLO County, and our condolences go to their family and friends of those individuals. Testing is available to those who are symptomatic and asymptomatic who may have been exposed, and you can learn more about that at readyslo.org. We do continue to be in the widespread or purple tier 1, and a little bit later on, Lee is going to be touching more on the trend lines for that and going into a little bit more detail. With that, Bettina, I will turn it back over to you. Oh, Bettina, if you could.
Sorry, we've only been doing this for a year. Thank you, Rachel, appreciate that. Let's go to the next slide. And I do want to give you a little bit of an update on what's happening on the federal level. So the Paycheck Protection Program is open. So check with your bank if you would like to apply for an additional loan in that amount. That loan is forgivable. So if you got a Paycheck Protection Program loan earlier in, say, April or May, now's the time to file for that forgiveness. This additional round of PPP is also going to be forgivable. There is this 1.9 trillion federal aid package that you may have been hearing about if you've been following the news at all. It is going to the Budget Committee today, and it's expected that the Senate will vote at the end of the week. As little bits and pieces are coming out of the bill. Various members of the Senate and the House are kind of trying to pick apart which they think is controversial or non-controversial. There's been a lot of chatter this weekend about the minimum wage part of this federal aid package, but we should see some more about this next week. So hopefully I'll be able to give you some more solid updates on that. On the next slide, we did get some very intriguing information from Governor Newsom last week about some additional stimulus plan that is available just in the state of California. Specifically, there's the Governor's Golden State Stimulus Plan, which is going to provide an additional $600 payment to very low income Californians who are under the $30,000 income line, and that's about 5.7 million people. So a lot of people primarily impacted by businesses that have been closed, people who are in really dire need of relief. They also announced that they're going to quadruple the amount of money that was allocated for the California business grants. So they originally allocated $500 million and they've upped that to more than $2 billion. So these are the business grants that many of us applied for, including Downtown SLO, our organization. You may have been waitlisted. We were waitlisted. Once you have applied, you do not need to reapply again. You will be considered as the funds continue to be supplied and distributed. So there's 4 times more money than there was before, which I think will be very promising for those of us who were waitlisted. And there's also $50 million for cultural institutions, which we know is really important for our downtown. We want to have opportunities for people to come and enjoy culture. When they enjoy arts and culture, they stay, they eat in restaurants, and they shop in shops, and everybody benefits. There's also some very interesting, yes, I said very interesting, California tax law provisions in this state of California relief plan. And I recommend that you speak with your CPA or your bookkeeper about this, but it does mean that if your company got a PPP loan, then you can deduct those expenses if you took out a loan of $150,000 or less. There's some more complicated issues if you were a company that took out more than that. I left those out of this slide presentation because of the type of business that is mostly represented in our downtown. But that tax treatment will also likely extend to the EIDL loans. So when you're looking at filing your tax return, make sure that your accountant or bookkeeper is aware of everything that is going to help your business. Importantly, too, the governor announced that there will be fee waivers for the most impacted businesses that are required to be licensed by the state. So that includes ABC licenses for bars and restaurants that serve alcohol, and barbering and cosmetology licenses. So that represents about 59,000 restaurants and bars, and probably about 600,000 barbering and cosmetology professionals and businesses. So that's really nice to see coming forward. And that was just announced last week, so we'll have more as that becomes available. So with that, I hope that I've done a good job explaining what's going on at the state, and we're going to ask our 3rd District County Supervisor, Don Ortiz-Legg, to join us and tell us about what's going on at the county, which I think is all about vaccinations. Am I right?
Yes, I would say that would be the main key, in regards to having the opportunity to get vaccinated. And I think that, we're seeing good numbers, but I would also say that the teachers have to get vaccinated. It's been something that I've been talking about for a while, and I think that we hope to make sure that our educators are next in line, or part of this next line. Now, whether we get out of the tier we're in this week, I haven't heard one way or another. I know that a lot of it came back to our equity piece, which is another part of what we're trying to figure out, is that how are we going to make sure that those that have the hardest time to get vaccinated have the opportunity to come to the centers that we have, the 3 centers that we have, and to be vaccinated. So that's being handled by the health department. We've got a lot of FEMA support in now. Now, if they can just bring all the vaccinations with them, that would really be helpful, because that's really where the problem is. We're able to vaccinate a significant amount of people every day, but we need the vaccination itself. And I think that with the weather concerns and the cancellations that happened, we're starting to get caught up, and we're starting to see at the national level, like with all these other packages coming through, that this stuff takes time. We've all been waiting, but we still are not quite there yet. So keep your masks on. I also wanted to mention about the rent relief program that is has been funded. The county itself has gone with, there was 3 options to take on how we were going to distribute rent relief. Rent relief is going to be really directed towards landlords. That's the best way to, it can be the renter, but really the biggest bang comes if the landlord actually applies for the rent relief, and they get up to 80% of the missing rent for the last year if they apply. So if you have landlords that, or for your workers, we're trying to get that information and who's going to do it. Right now, we've got 2 organizations, both SLO and 5 Cities Homeless Coalition will be overseeing part of the grants, but actually the main part of the grant is coming from the state of California. We did not have the infrastructure in place with any of our homeless folks to actually have the grant be initiated out of here. So people will go up to the state, but what these folks will do, well, they will be helping people fill out the forms, also making sure that we've got a marketing plan and getting the information out on the rent relief. And Aiden is going to put in my office number and our email in case you have questions about the rent relief, which I'm sure people will. The last thing, oh no, 2 more things. One is that I want to do one piece of good news, which I hope everybody saw, that through the efforts of the Parks Department, the Public Works Department, SLOCOG, and then active members of our community, including Helen Finger from an engineer at Cal Poly, we have been marked to get $18+ million to finish the Bob Jones Trail, the in-between part between off of the 101 by the barn all the way down into Avila. And that is a big deal. The fact that we were on the list, we're one of 50 agencies that have asked for transportation funds for bike lanes, things like that. And so $18 million will help us do a lot to improve and finish the Bob Jones Trail. There's a couple of pieces. One is that it hasn't been fully granted yet. We just know that we're in the first 25, which makes it likely that we will get the money, but that hasn't been finalized. And I think it's next week when that final decision is made. And then I want to say something about the homeless situation. I know, for downtown SLO, this is a really critical piece. And of course, the news of a dead person laying near Mitchell Park is probably one of the most devastating pieces of information we can have, besides the fact of what we see every day. And all I can tell you is that we have some fresh eyes looking at our homeless situation. I'm on the HSOC now, which is the Homeless Oversight Committee, Homeless Services Oversight Committee. Susan Funk is our new chairperson from Atascadero. And then we have our homeless czar, Carolyn Berg, here at the county, that's going to be working with your city and all of the regions to really take a regional approach. And I don't have any answers for you at this point in time. I can just tell you that with fresh energy and eyes, that we're trying to revise some of the things at the Homeless Services Coalition to try to figure out other ways around this. You kind of have to ask yourselves, after 10 years of trying to address homelessness, and we have a bigger problem than ever, that maybe we need to be doing some things differently. And I'm really interested in legislation on a very much higher level, but I didn't want to leave this today without noting this incredible issue that we have, and that we are working on it every week here at the county. So it's not enough, but again, your input and information is what I'm looking for. And lastly, I just want to salute the Downtown SLO organization for all that you're doing for the businesses. And next week we'll have our own little grant fund and some other information coming out about what's happening on next week's board. And thank you so much. I'll end there.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much, Dawn. Really appreciate it. I do have a couple of questions, if you don't mind, related specifically to the vaccine. Could you remind people what tier we're at right now? Is it open to people 65 and older, or is it?
That's correct. Yeah, we're at 65 and over. And am I still on? Okay, I thought I was on mute. Yes, we are at 65 and over. And what that means, if we go to the red tier next week, just opens up more businesses, doesn't really tell us anything. But, you know, last week the governor did note that they were trying to make we have 7,000 educators in the county. It would really be nice if we could get them taken care of. That's all I can tell you that I'm mostly concerned about and focused on at this point in time, because, you know, there is a lot of back and forth about feeling safe in a classroom. But that's where we're at on our vaccinations, Bettina.
Great.
And folks.
Thank you. And I have one other question for you too, which
Sure.
is related to the mortgage relief. So it sounds like this is a program that the landlords need to apply for. Is it for only individual resident landlords, or is it for commercial tenants as well?
It's only for residential.
Okay.
It's only rent. And if the landlord is not willing to do it, the renter will get 20% and then have to negotiate. The feedback that we've gotten from the housing industry, and again, you know, one of the challenges that we're having is, what's the data out there? What's happening? But the feedback initially when we were talking about how we're going to execute this was that a lot of people have been working with their landlords. That's anecdotal. I really would like to hear from folks that tell me that they can't pay the rent and they're told that they're going to have to leave, or that their landlord's not willing to work with them, or things like that. So even though it's anecdotal, I need to hear information. So I hope that answers your question, Bettina.
That does. And I think we can reach out to Aiden as well with more specific questions. And if anybody on the call owns property and may be a landlord, this would be a good opportunity for you to help your tenants out.
The 80% that's paid means that 20% of what's owed to them for the last year would have to be erased, and they would have to accept that. But, you know, that's not a bad deal, so to speak. So I'm hoping that we see some relief there for folks.
Great. Well, thank you so much for being here every week with us. We so appreciate your time and care.
You guys are doing a great job. Thank you. Thanks.
All right, up next we have Courtney Keno from Cal Poly. How are things going at Cal Poly this week, Courtney?
You know, they're going really well. We are starting off the 8th week of winter quarter, which means we're getting close to the end of our 10-week quarter system. Finals will begin on March 15th, and then spring break begins the 22nd. And then first day of spring quarter will be the March 29th. In terms of our timeline, we're messaging out a lot of guidelines around travel if students do choose to travel, but encouraging them to stay if they can. And our whole student affairs department is working on programming and virtual activities that they can participate in if they do choose to stay. For those that leave, we're going to go through the same protocol that we did for this quarter at the beginning, which is students have to test before they come back to the area as soon as they return, and then every about 3 days or twice a week after that. So lots of testing going on. In terms of numbers, we have just over 1,500 total positive tests since we began testing last summer. That's 200 positive tests this quarter. We have 26 students in isolation on campus, 3 in quarantine, and 197 in quarantine in place. Some exciting news: we did start saliva testing on campus this past Thursday, February 18th. That's all seems to be going really well. And I think that I've shared with you before, but we hired 15 students to go around campus and sort of be champions for following the safety guidelines. So they're handing out masks and hand sanitizer and all kinds of thank you gifts for students that are complying. So it's kind of a fun program. There's also St. Patrick's Day coming up on March 17th. So we're doing a lot of messaging around that since that falls in the middle of finals week. And then separate from COVID, just as it's Black History Month, we have a series of events, and there's one happening this Saturday called Change the Status Quo, and I'll post the link in the chat, but we're really excited. We have a keynote speaker that is the founder and executive officer of The Body Is Not an Apology, Sonia Renee Taylor. And again, that's free, open to the public, and I will post the link. So that's all I have for this morning. Thanks.
Great, thanks, Courtney. Could you give us a little update on, I know this time of year, there sometimes are programs in place for maybe returning alumni or prospective students who might be coming. Will you be doing any of those events this year?
Not for a while. We put together a whole virtual tour and of videos to help people as much as we can experience campus and those kind of orientations. But it's all virtual at this point. We are planning on being back in person as close to 100% as public health guidelines will allow in the fall. So as we get closer to that time, there will be, at some point it's going to be scaling up of events and things like that, but not, there's not a clear plan at this point for when those kinds of activities would resume in person.
Great, thank you, appreciate that. I know that when there is a homecoming weekend or that kind of a thing, it really affects downtown businesses. So we will be eagerly awaiting their return when it's appropriate to do so. Well, thank you, Courtney. Appreciate you being here. And let's move into the next section, which we have, if you are a regular attendee of these meetings, you know that the City of San Luis Obispo is embarking on an ambitious downtown paving project. There is a community meeting on February 25th at, I believe, 6 p.m. And there is information about that online. You can sign up on Facebook. There's lots of information on the city's website. We encourage you to join and give your input. It's going to be a 2-year project, and it's going to make our streets look and be much safer, but it is going to definitely impact us. So the city wants as much impact and input as possible. Up next, we have Mr. Lee Johnson with the City of SLO. How are you doing today, Lee?
Good, Bettina. How about you?
Doing well.
Excellent, excellent. So thank you for covering the paving information. That was on my list to talk about. The other thing I want to talk about is the tier movements and how that works, because there seems to always be a topic of conversation. So basically, and there's a couple caveats here. One, the rules can change and do change. So this is as of like this morning. The other thing is there can be a difference in data between what you see reported by the newspaper, everything about number of cases, versus what shows up in the state metrics, because they use different timing and they have to access to different information, so it doesn't always line up perfectly. But the 2 ways we can move forward, we're in the purple tier now. We can either move to the red tier if our adjusted case rate, our positivity rate, and our healthy places equity indicator are all within the guidelines for that tier. So if we scroll up a little bit on this page, so you can see right here, back down, right there. So you can see the different tiers, and then in there you can see the numbers of where you need to be in that tier. So you can either have all 3 numbers in the red tier or the next least restrictive tier, or you can have your positivity and your positivity healthy equity index both be 2 tiers ahead. So if they're both in the orange, no matter what your case rate is, you can still move to red. And so if we scroll down a little bit, and we look, so the case rate you can see is well above the 7 that we need to move to the next tier. So that one, very unlikely that in the short term we get to where we need to be to go to red like next week. And you also have to meet the metrics that are moving you to the better place 2 weeks in a row. So you have to have 2 weeks with good numbers to move ahead. So last week, if we look at our health equity, you can see we ticked up over the 5.2 that you need. So last week, if we would have had a 5.2, we would have gone into the red tier last week. But we didn't, we had 5.9. So that we have to start over again now with 2 good weeks in a row. based on what's been reported, up through Friday, I think we have a good shot of getting back to where we need to be for this week, but it depends on what happened over the weekend and a couple other things. So we'll know more tomorrow when they release the numbers. But if the health equity and the positivity rate both end up tomorrow being in the orange tier, so that would be below 4.9 and 5.2 respectively. If that happens tomorrow, then a week from tomorrow, if we're still in the orange tier on both those metrics, then on Wednesday, that March 3rd, we would go into the red tier. So that's the soonest it could happen. And again, this is my understanding of it. I'm not the county who's neck deep in this all the time, that I'm 99.9% sure the fastest we can get to the red tier will be next Wednesday. But that means the numbers have to be good tomorrow and again next Tuesday for us to go in on Wednesday. So that's kind of where we stand. That tier change has big implications for restaurants, allows indoor dining, gyms, etc. So hopefully the numbers go the right direction and we can get there. The things that help are people who are healthy getting tested, because that improves our positivity rate, and particularly getting testing and everything done in those lowest healthy HPI locations, which the county is very focused on, and so is everybody involved. So that's basically it. Hopefully that answers the questions on the tier movement and where we stand. Feel free to ask me anytime, ljohnson@slowcity.org, or my mobile number, 805-710-1824. That's it for me, Bettina.
Great. Hey, that was really helpful, Lee. I know this stuff is extremely complicated, so now is your chance. If you have questions, I find Lee to be a wonderful interpreter of complicated graphs. So now's your chance. And if you can think of your question you want to ask, I will ask you another question, Lee, because I know the city council last week made some progress on the major city goals. Mm-hmm. Could you give us a little update on where downtown vitality fits into that and what the upcoming steps are?
Yeah, so basically council approved 4 goals. One of them is, and I don't have all the wording exactly off the top of my head, but one of them is housing and homelessness. One of them is diversity, equity, inclusion. And then one of them is economic recovery, resiliency, and fiscal sustainability, which is the major city goal that I'm responsible for. And in there, they specifically call out downtown vitality. So council approved the language. We are now working on the work programs that fit into there, and all of the people who will cooperate for that downtown vitality, let's say section like economic development, parks and rec, PD, public works. All of us are working on the initiatives that we will do over the next 2 years to help downtown vitality, economic recovery in general, but downtown vitality specifically. And as part of that, we put in budget requests for more money for certain things or where we're going to put our resources. So that happens over the next couple of weeks, and then that goes back to council for their review to make sure we covered all of the actions that they wanted in there, and for public input and all of those things. And once that's all signed off, then we turn that into the final budget.
Okay, thank you very much. Yeah, we'll look forward to hearing about that progress. And I know that having watched the process, City Council, both the public forums, the different community stakeholder input sessions, and then the final budget goal setting workshop, the process has been extraordinarily complimentary of downtown and thinking about downtown as being truly the heart of our city and wanting to put resources toward that. So even though downtown vitality isn't going to be its own standalone goal the way it was in this current 2-year budget cycle, it's not that the council has decided to eliminate the care and feeding of downtown vitality.
Yeah, and it's specifically called out in the economic recovery, resiliency, and fiscal sustainability goal as in the language as one of the key items. So we'll have a specific subsection just on downtown vitality.
Great. Well, and another city program that is keenly related to downtown vitality is our parking downtown. So I'm going to segue now into the update from our parking services manager, Gavin Hussey. Gavin, are you still with us? I know you had a conflict this morning.
Yeah. Good morning, Bettina. How are you? Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, doing great. Great to hear you.
Yeah. So the conflict we have this morning is we're starting our pay station installation. So our vendor is on site and we'll begin that process hopefully shortly in the next hour. So they're right now identifying the pay station locations. So super excited to get that program going. You'll see that taking place over the next 2.5, 3 weeks. The project is scheduled to wrap up by the 12th. We're confident it should be wrapped up hopefully by the middle of next week with us testing and ensuring that the programming is working correctly. We'll start that later this week and move through. So hopefully beginning of March, you'll be using the pay stations and we'll start taking out some of the core downtown meter poles and getting these singles or multi-space meters, pay stations going. So super excited about that. Couple other things is we are going to be submitting an RFP in April to bring mobile apps to downtown. So the combination of the two should help change the look and feel of our downtown streets and improve customer experience where they're able to extend their parking sessions up to the time they need. So they're not having to run out of your store or restaurant to go feed a parking meter. So trying to make it a little bit more convenient for everyone out there. And then just to touch on COVID and COVID response. So right now we are in the purple tier, right? It is 2 hours free on Saturdays and Sundays are free in the parking structures. And then if we do move to the red tier, it'll be 2 hours free on Saturday and 2 hours free on Sunday in the structures. So.
That's great. Thank you, Gavin. Backing up to the paved stations, can you give us just a little bit more detail about how that's going to work? For example, I go on the radio each week to talk about downtown, and somebody asked me, are they going to get a printed out receipt that they put on the dashboard, or how will it work for the parker?
Yeah, so it's going to be pay by plate. The pay stations will notice the customer if you enter your phone number so the customer can re-up. So you should be able to get a text message. I want to make sure that that works correctly. So we're not advertising that that's going to be an immediate option, but that was part of the solution that was sold to us. So make it a little bit more convenient for the customers. They are paying by license plate. We're going to use our license plate recognition software that we invested in a few years ago to identify all the vehicles that are properly parked. With customers being able to add time, it should make it a lot more convenient for them.
Okay, so there's no you walk to the station, you get your ticket, and then you walk back to your car?
Don't need to return to your vehicle. Go to the pay station once. If you're able to enter your cell phone number, you should be notified when your session's about to expire, and if you want to re-up. So it should make it a lot more easier for all of our customers, especially if you don't want to have to go back to your vehicle while you're visiting downtown.
Well, we are so excited. I mean, this is going to be revolutionary for downtown, and it's going to improve the sidewalk experience so much just to have that space where the parking meters used to be. So congratulations on getting it this far.
We're very optimistic. So we think it'll be a great experience for the customers downtown, especially with us dealing with the pandemic right now. Opening up a little bit more of our sidewalk should make it easier for people to get around and, make them feel a little bit more comfortable visiting downtown.
Will there also be an option with this for a business to pay for a customer's parking?
Correct. So as some of our historic technology here with some of the older meters we had, people were able to use a key and get a key charged up and utilize that. We are going to have permits that are able to be sold through the pay stations. A business could reach out to the parking department similar as they had before and get a token or something like that where they could offer that to the customers. And when I say token, it would be a code that the customer would wind up entering for their free session.
Okay, great. And is there a maximum amount of time that you can remain parked downtown by renewing via your cell phone?
Currently, yes. So we are still following the same setup that has been here in downtown for a period of time where you're allowed to park up to a certain time limit. One of the things we are pushing for to implement this summer is a tiered parking structure where customers can park as long as they choose to. They would pay more for the longer durations that they choose to take up a curbside space, and parking program in the structures would be cheaper for them for long-term parking. But we are working towards that, and hopefully we'll have that in place by July.
Okay, this would be a great group to give feedback on that if you are interested in getting some, just FYI.
Yep.
We'd be excited about that.
And we do need to reconvene the parking committee probably next month in March. So I'll be reaching out to Rachel on that, just so we can talk through some of the ideas that we're bringing forward to council in June.
Great, we'd be happy to work with you on that. Well, thanks for the exciting update, Gavin, and good luck with your contractor out there. So if you see somebody digging up a parking meter in front of your business, they are supposed to be doing that.
Yeah, it's not just someone stealing it, so.
All right, great. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
All right, up next we have Jim D'Antona from the SLO Chamber. How are you today, Jim?
Doing great, Bettina. Great to see everyone on the call and such good information to be sharing. So always appreciate the great work you do in putting these together. For us, just a quick update. Wanted to let folks know we have our San Luis Obispo relocation and referral guide that has been published. And while we will have physical books for people, we know that that's not always going to be the easiest to use right now. So we've actually, if you click on the link that just Rachel dropped, appreciate it, Rachel, you actually can get a run through of the entire guide and get a chance to go through the businesses. And we see this as a great tool to use to talk to potential new hires, people coming to your community, your customers. So all of those things are available through that link. And there's updates in there. There's actually video interaction on some of these. So pretty cool little guide, and it's ready. And we will have the physical books here shortly, but the digital version is ready now. So if you want to share that out, feel free to use this link or reach out to us and we can help you kind of create that in a way that you can use. Additionally, we, as the Coalition of Central Coast Chambers, we did our February impact survey, talking to businesses, got a lot of feedback throughout the region. Certainly, you know, we're not to where we want to be, but we are getting there. You saw a lot of hope in this latest poll. You saw people looking to hire new people, and most of that in that kind of mid to upper management levels that they were referencing when they went to hire folks. And then some interesting conversations we had with folks about the survey, the vaccines, and how many people would likely use them or require them. And so a lot of great information to check out in there just to see how the region is feeling throughout the area. So, and then finally, obviously wanted to just bring up Good Morning SLO. It's this Thursday. We're having some great speakers. You know, we have people speaking actually from the blood donation, Laura Kamada there from Vitalent. We always seem to be in a blood donation emergency. Why is that? We also have Colonel David Rickards, who will be talking about, just giving us a 5-minute overview at the latest on Vandenberg and the space programs they got going on there and the master plan they're working on. One of my favorites, and I'm looking most forward to, is we had one of the young women who started Help SLO Facebook group, and she's gonna be talking about how they've made that survive. 7,000 people following along. They seem to keep the trolls out, which is unbelievable. And all of us who run any kind of social media know that is the hardest job to do. And so they've actually created this really great place, and they're up to a website now. And again, just on the idea of helping others in SLO. So we'll have 6 speakers. That'll be a really great program. If you want to join us over there, feel free to click the link, and it'd be a really great way to, again, we can't be in person yet, but getting as close as we can and trying to keep some connection going through that. But great seeing everyone. Let me know if you have any questions.
Thanks, Jim. That looks like a really good program this week. I actually have a question about your remark about the vaccine comments that people made in the business impact survey. What did you mean? You said they were interesting. Sometimes interesting can be code. I don't.
Well, it depends on what you think what is interesting. So for us, it was interesting to see that many people were likely going to take advantage of the vaccine when they got it. But there was also, we had a question in there about whether it would actually be, if your employer required it, what your feeling about it would be. And that had a very different viewpoint to those who are going to take it. So, as you think about, as you're working with your employees, I would say working with them on making sure everybody who's available, who can get vaccinated, obviously is great, because people seem to believe, that it would help us get to a quicker reopening, and rolling that out with, 71% saying they will get it when it comes available. But making sure that you're working with your employees, because if it feels like it's being kind of forced on them, that it actually had almost some other different viewpoints. So that was some of that kind of different thoughts that came out of that survey.
Got it. That's really helpful. Thank you for contextualizing that for me.
Yep.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Jim. And our downtown foresters are going to meet on Saturday, this Saturday, February 27th. Our motto is plant, prune, and protect. So if you are interested in joining this volunteer group of arborists, we have tools and we have vests, and we usually work for about an hour and a half in the morning with the city arborist. Anthony Whipple is going to be leading our effort. So look for some trimmed trees, and if you see some people in green vests on Saturday morning, you probably won't, because we'll be there very early, but you're welcome to join us or see the fruits of our labor when you come into work later that day. Also wanted to just remind everybody, because it is Black History Month, that a year ago, we opened a really fascinating and significant exhibit in our office. There was a Belonging Portraits and Perspective exhibits that was part of a Race Matters SLO month-long celebration. And there were many different aspects to the celebration. There were exhibitions at the SLO library, there was a film, and there were these portraits hung in our office. And they actually are still in our office, and they are beautiful portraits that were taken by Renata Campbell, who doesn't have an office downtown, but had an office downtown for many, many years. And on the next slide, you can see pictures from when we celebrated the opening of that exhibition. And this was in February last year. So a little bit of a bittersweet flashback to think about the time when we opened our office during Art After Dark, and we had more than 200 people pass through our doors to see this exhibit and celebrate these perspectives. We also had a front window dedicated to Maxine Lewis, who was a social justice worker, and her extended family came from all over the state. You can see in the upper left corner, there were, I think, probably about 18 family members, descendants of her children and grandchildren, all huddled around the picture, taking that on the there. So we get to see this every day. Our office is not really open to the public, but if you are interested in seeing it, we would open the door to you if you come over and knock. And we're really grateful that we were part of this exhibition and that we kind of kicked off our year having these conversations about race. And we didn't know it was going to go where it did, but we're grateful for those conversations and for this opportunity to use our space as a gathering place. And we hope that someday soon we'll be able to do that again. We do still have the Light Up Downtown activation in Mission Plaza. The Lunar New Year pod is still up. The Lunar New Year celebration officially ends February 26th with, there's a festival that gets celebrated at that time. But the Love Your Local Tunnel of Local Love is still up. That will be up through February, as well as the Lunar New Year pod. We had some great success on our social media, celebrating people and businesses that were doing special Valentine's gift promotions. We will be sharing our social media impact report probably early in March, so you can see how well that did, but we've been getting some great engagement. People love this activation of Mission Plaza, and the city is investing more funds and staff time toward continuing to activate Mission Plaza. with some other exciting things that will be coming soon. So we'll hope to give you an update about that on future calls. But the Parks and Recreation Department is running the Downtown Dine Out program, which is the free seating that's available every day in Mission Plaza from 11 a.m. to 8 p.m. So while we're still in the purple tier and there is no indoor dining allowed, we have additional space for you to get some takeout and enjoy Mission Plaza. We encourage you to take advantage of these. There are wipes for you to wipe down your table and seat, and it's fun to see people gather in those spaces. So that brings us to a close. There's a lot of stuff discussed this morning. I think the only question that we didn't really get to was I saw somebody in the chat ask about the hotelier perspective. I'm wondering, David Smith, if you are on the call still, if you'd like to maybe give us just a little bit of an insight into how things are looking over at Hotel SLO. Are you out there?
Yes. Hi, thank you. Yes, since the beginning of February, when the most strict restrictions were lifted, business has continued to improve. Occupancies still over on a monthly basis are falling below 50%. However, weekends, every room available is being sold. So there's some optimism there around that. The 3 restaurants and the associated bars are available for outdoor dining only. And we've been able to bring back probably about 90% of the team that was here prior to the most recent shutdown. So people are coming back to work and seem to be happy to do that. People are coming to the hotel. There seems to be some pinned up demand for people wanting to go out. And we're very much looking forward to being able to allow 25% inside. It's been obviously a very tough year for hospitality and restaurants throughout the town, but we're seeing some positive indications that it will come back, and it has come back quickly as well. So we're looking forward to seeing people in our restaurants. We're looking forward to hosting people when they visit the coast. And I would have, if you asked me this question a month ago, I wouldn't be as optimistic, but things are improving. People seem to be happy to be here. One note that I think is probably notable and important is we're not getting the pushback this time that we were getting from people not wanting to wear masks indoors as they're walking through the lobby. Everybody seems to understand that when you're inside, you need to have a mask on, or when you're moving around, even outside, we're seeing much more, adherence to what the CDC says in regards to just, moving around. So all in all, February has ended up being a very good month for us, and we're on a good path. And I assume this probably follows with the restaurants that are able to get open too. We are blessed with a lot of outdoor space, which has made a big difference for us, but we are looking forward to getting back inside as well.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for that update. It's great to hear some green shoots, especially the rapid return to business. I think we benefit greatly from having good weather with the outdoor dining, but historically March is a very rainy month for us. So it would be very interesting for us to see if we could get to that tier in March, as Lee was talking about. That might help people out as we move into more rainy weather, hopefully. Thanks for that update. All right, we have a few minutes left, and I did just get a message from a private chat from somebody that there is another survey that's been out in the community, the Arts Coalition Audience Perception Survey. Chris Miller from the PAC has volunteered to give a little update. Chris, can you tell us what's going on with that?
You bet. Thanks, Bettina. So this will be the 3rd iteration of our audience perception survey. The last iteration was back in July. Feels like years ago. But now that the vaccine is rolling out in the county and we see some light at the end of the tunnel, it's still months off in terms of getting back to doing performances indoors. We felt it would be appropriate to survey our audiences again to see how they're feeling about acceptance of the vaccine and what factors are going to make them feel comfortable to come back to performances when they're allowed. So we're finalizing the draft of that 3rd iteration. It should be out hopefully later this week, or at the latest early the following week. It'll be up for about 10 days. And we send it out each time to a list of about 25 to 30,000 arts patrons around the county that our Arts Coalition has collated. So I would imagine that most all of you will see that. And so please respond when you get it. And we'll share the results from that at an upcoming meeting if you'd like. Great. Thank you.
Yes, wonderful. We'd love to hear about that. That's so important to get that participation and those insights from those folks. I know I, for one, cannot wait to get inside a concert hall or sit in an outdoor concert facility, for one. So, okay, at this point, I think we have reached the end of our time together. Thank you so much for being with us this Monday morning and every Monday morning. We hope that we will be meeting next week, which we will, and we hope that maybe we'll have some good news for you about whether we think we might be moving into the next year. Although we thought we were going to move into the next year last week, and then that didn't happen. So grain of salt, and constantly be reading the updates. But at any point, look for your board election ballot from Election Buddy. And if you need gloves, let us know. And everybody else, thanks for being here, and we hope to see you next week.
Thank you.